When it comes to system design, there's one fundamental truth that just governs everything. You simply can't have it all. You see, building any system is really an art of compromise, and knowing which compromises to make, well, that's what separates a truly great design from a system that just falls apart in the real world. Now, I know this sounds bold, but it is the absolute heart of system design. There's no such thing as a perfect solution. The entire discipline really is about navigating these competing priorities and making the smartest possible choice when you know you can't have everything. This is the dream, isn't it? We all want to build that perfect system, one that's infinitely fast, completely bulletproof, can handle a billion users without breaking a sweat, is always online, and oh yeah, costs practically nothing. It's this beautiful, impossible goal we all start with. But, reality, it always has other plans. And that brings us right to the fundamental rule of the game. You can't have it all. Every single decision you make to improve one thing, let's say performance, is almost certainly going to have an impact on something else, like your cost or maybe your data's consistency. The real skill is knowing which compromises to make, and more importantly, why. So where do these big battles actually happen? Well, here are the classics. You've got cost versus performance, reliability versus scalability, and two of my favorites, speed versus consistency, and how fast you can build versus how well you build it. Let's zoom in on a couple of these critical conflicts that, believe me, every single designer faces. All right, let's start with a big one, a real heavyweight fight, availability versus consistency. I like to call this the dilemma between being always on versus being always right. So, which do you want? Do you want your service to always pick up the phone, even if it might have slightly old information? Or do you want it to guarantee the absolute latest truth, even if that means sometimes it doesn't answer at all? Now, this whole dilemma is so fundamental that it's actually codified in a famous rule called the CAP theorem. It basically says any distributed system can only guarantee two out of these three things: consistency, availability, or partition tolerance. But here's the kicker. In the real world, networks fail all the time. Servers go down. That's just a fact of life. So partition tolerance isn't really a choice, it's a requirement. And that forces you into a direct, unavoidable choice between the other two: consistency or availability. Think about it like this. For your bank account, you demand consistency, right? You would absolutely rather wait an extra second or two than see the wrong balance. No question. But for your social media feed, you want availability. It's so much better for it to load instantly, even if you miss the very latest like by a few seconds, than for it to just show you an error screen. For most apps people use every day, uptime is king. And hey, if you think a tiny little delay doesn't really matter, you should consider this. Amazon found that for every 100 milliseconds of latency, that's literally the blink of an eye, their sales dropped by 1%. At that kind of scale, a fraction of a second isn't just a technical problem, it's a multi-billion-dollar business problem. And that's exactly why, while perfect consistency sounds great, the real-world cost of just being unavailable is often way, way higher. For these huge systems, think e-commerce, social media, being fast and online almost always wins the trade-off against being perfectly, instantly consistent. Okay, so let's look at a totally different kind of trade-off. This is one that happens every single day inside development teams. It's that constant battle between speed and quality. The essential question here is, do you ship it now or do you ship it right? On the one hand, speed is just survival. It gets you into the market first, it lets you learn from real users, and it helps you get ahead of competitors. But on the other hand, quality is what lets you stay in the market. It's the solid foundation that allows you to scale, to add new features, and to avoid getting crushed by all that technical debt down the line. So really, it all boils down to this. Are you solving today's problem, or are you building for tomorrow's? And there's no easy answer. A startup might literally die if it doesn't ship quickly, but a big, established company could crumble under the weight of a poorly built system. It's a constant, tricky balancing act. So if everything is a compromise, how do we get good at it? Well, it's about reframing the whole idea. See, a trade-off isn't a failure to build the perfect system. A well-chosen trade-off is the mark of a great design. It shows that you actually understand the constraints and the real goals of what you're trying to build. And this right here, this is probably the most important takeaway of all. There is no universally correct answer in system design. The right choice for a banking app is definitely the wrong choice for a video game. What's right for a tiny startup is totally wrong for a company like Google. Context is absolutely everything. So how can you actually make these choices in a structured way? It's not just a gut feeling, right? There's a framework. So step 1, you've got to identify the competing forces. Is it speed versus quality? Cost versus performance? Step 2, you have to understand the context. What does the business actually need? What do your users value the most? Step 3, analyze the consequences, both short-term and long-term. And finally, step 4, make a deliberate, informed decision, and this is key, write down why you made it. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. On a project that you've worked on, what was that perfect feature that you had to sacrifice for a good enough launch? You know, that compromise you made? That wasn't a failure. That was design in action.